Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. I'm Sean Wasserkrug, and I'm here to bring you the latest review of Overlord. It's been a movie that's been out for a couple weeks now, but I've had quite a lot of people come to me and say, hey, have you checked this out? You should really see this movie, so I finally got some time to finally go around and check it. Before we get into it, though, like I said, I like all the support that I've been getting for the first film of the Fantastic Beasts sequel. If you guys like the show, you guys want more from me, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Like I said, don't forget to leave your comments, such as like this one where someone requested this movie. If there's a movie you guys want me to review, or whether it be something brand new or something that's been out for quite a while, just hit me up, hit that comments, and just let me know. And like I said, if there's anything you guys want to see me do on the show, whether it be like top 10, older movies, or anything else, really, leave in the comments, whether it be on the YouTube channel here, or whether it be on Sean's Movie Crusades at Facebook. Go ahead and just leave it there, and I'll get in touch with you guys. I mean, I love to keep interacting with you and keep everything going. I like to have a good communication between my fans and the show in general. So if there's anything you want to see done, or anything you think that we could do to make the show better, I mean, barring budget, please let me know. And keep it coming through. We got a lot more reviews coming down the pike. I'm going to be catching Grinch later today. And then, of course, we got a lot of movies coming out here in the next week with Creed, Wreck-It Ralph, Robin Hood. So, I mean, there's going to be more reviews coming in the next week. But let's go ahead and dive into Overlord. Basically, when I first saw the trailer for this, I wasn't really all that hyped up to it. 'Cause, I mean, it kind of just looked like a B movie, and what I mean by B movie, it's one of those movies that you would kind of see on like on Redbox or Netflix or Sci-Fi Channel, where it's the concept is just kind of ridiculous. I mean, there's been a ton of Nazi zombie movies made over the last few years. Dead Snow being the best out of the group, but it's not really a movie that you would take seriously or consider being a good movie. It's just kind of one of those, what you would call a trash film, where you would basically just watch it to kind of make fun of it. And when I first saw the trailer for Overlord, that's kind of what it looked like. The big thing that really made me look into it a little bit further was that it said that it was going to be produced or directed by J.J. Abrams, who, has done episode 7 of Star Wars. He's getting ready to do episode 9. The Cloverfield franchise. A lot of people said that this movie was going to be part of the Cloverfield franchise. It is not. Thankfully, not that I hate Cloverfield. The first Cloverfield movie and 10 Cloverfield Lane are two huge favorites of mine. Paradox, that came out earlier this year, was rather a big dud. But because this movie is based out of World War II, it kind of would, I don't feel like it would have fit properly if it was in the Cloverfield series. So luckily it's not. It is its own movie. But yeah, J.J. Abrams, he's producing it, and he gives the director's chair to a Julius Erving, who basically does a really good job with this movie. I'm actually real excited. He's done some films here. They're kind of small films. This is kind of his first big, directorial debut in terms of a big movie. I mean, it did have a $30 million budget. And he is in line. I mean, he's hired already for it. I don't know if the movie's actually ever going to get made, but he is going to be doing the Flash Gordon remake. So this is someone to kind of keep an eye on. He does a real good job doing this movie overall, which I guess that's kind of the review right there, is that it comes off as a B movie, but this movie is really good. It's pretty awesome. And the big thing that it kind of undersells in the trailers, because I mean, the trailers, it kind of looks like I said, a Nazi zombie movie, something you would see out of Call of Duty zombies and stuff like that, but hidden inside this film is actually a really good war movie. The opening scene alone ranks up there as probably one of the best opening scenes to a war movie in quite a long time. I mean, it doesn't reach Saving Private Ryan levels. Let's face it, nothing will ever probably reach Saving Private Ryan levels. But the opening scene where pretty much all the soldiers are on this plane and they're flying in, and they're basically being shot at from below is intense. It's scary, and not in the terms of like it's trying to scare you like a horror movie. It's just more like super tense and scary for the people that are on this plane, because just all sorts of hell is happening to these people from below, and they don't know they don't see it coming, and it's just constant, just hit after hit after hit. and it's like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and it is a very intense 10 minutes, and it's shot beautifully. The CGI that's used in the opening scene is very well done, and pretty much opens up kind of gives brief little introductions to the main characters, and they're all basically playing your typical typecast army people. I mean, you have the hard ass like drill sergeant type character. You've got the Italian New Yorker who just doesn't shut up. You have the badass colonel who has a weird history that no one really knows why he's there, so naturally he has that mystic mystery around his character, but he's just that guy who's silently quiet, and you know he's going to cause not necessarily problems for the team, but he's a guy who could really mess some stuff up. You have the guy who's the photographer who really, you know, remember like a medic, like he really does not belong there. He should not be there. He's not going to fight. He's not going to shoot. He's just there kind of as a spectator, and really just does not belong. And then you have the main character who has the best friend who's just kind of there. But you have the main character who's played by, I wrote these down because some of these names are real hard to say, but Yvan Baker. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. But if any of you guys saw the movie Fences from last year with Denzel Washington, he played Denzel's son. Did a great job in that film, and he does a great job here. I mean, this is an actor to keep your eyes on. And that's the thing, is a lot of the people in this movie do a really good job and are people to keep an eye on in the future. But Yvan Baker, he plays Boyce in the lead role. He's kind of that guy who's just a real nice guy who really probably does not belong in this war. He probably should not be fighting. And we kind of follow the movie through him. He's horrified the entire time through this film. And that's another great thing about the movie, is that while he's going through everything in this film, we follow him in terms of his fear. Like, he's not your typical badass hero. He's not, like, when he sees something horrific, it's not like, oh, that's just bad. I'm tough, that's not going to bother me. No, it shakes him hard, and it's something that kind of feels real to us, because, and let's face it, if we saw the stuff that he saw, we'd be freaking out too. So that level of realism to his character really makes it easy to follow him. And kind of the core group of the main cast as well, they're all, even though they're playing typecast characters, they give that layer to their characters. It actually makes us care about them and their outcomes. And really, if something actually does happen to certain characters in the movie, it's not just like, oh, we expected that person to die, or oh, we expected this to happen. It actually has that level of like actual concern for the characters, and that's a great job done by the director in terms of directing them, and the cast themselves. Some other big notable cast people, like I said, there's no real big names. I mean, the biggest name, I guess you would call in this movie, is probably and I'm blanking on his name right now. He is Jacob Anderson. Anyone who watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he plays Fitz. He's the photographer guy who really doesn't belong there. He's probably the biggest name outside of Wyatt Russell, who I mean, throughout the entire movie, I was blanking on who he was, and it was really frustrating because he looked familiar and he sounded familiar. And then at the end of the movie, I finally looked it up, and he's Kurt Russell's kid, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son. And going back and rewatching it, I'm like, yeah, that is totally Kurt Russell. And this kid, he's done a few movies, but most of the time he plays like kind of a hipster character. So this is his first jump into the action kind of role, and he does a really good job. He plays the badass mystery character, the guy who's real quiet, who can mess some stuff up, and he does a really good job. I do wish they kind of would have actually delved into the character a little bit more, because they do a whole lot of where's he come from, who is this guy, why is he here, and they never give us that. So it's just one of those things where they just kept hitting it with characters, but they just never gave it to us. So I kind of wish they would have done that. But he does great in his job. I mean, he's playing the tough badass role. So I mean, he kind of has to stay on a particular line with his character. But by the end of the movie, he adds those layers to the character that actually makes us care. And when it comes down to the climax of the film, Him and Boyce in particular do a great job of getting us through the movie, as well as Matilda Olivier, or Olivier. Like I said, I'm butchering these names. It's kind of her first big role. She plays Chloe. Basically, the plot of the story is that these soldiers, they're flying into a town in France. It's basically for I'm pretty sure Overlord was an actual mission. I could be wrong on that, but basically there's a tower above this church in the small town, and they need to get into the small town and take down this tower, so that way the planes can fly into Normandy, so that way D-Day can happen. Because at that point, they weren't able to get the boats and the ships there to help out because of the tower being able to capture them coming in. So basically the job of these soldiers are to break into this town and into this church and take down the tower, so that way we can win the war. So that's kind of their drive and their goal. But then once they find out they get into the town, this church, there's a lot of stuff going on in this church. And basically, I mean, anyone who reads history books or anything about World War II, we know that Nazis did a lot of secret experiments, trying to make super soldiers and stuff like that. And that's basically what's going on here, is that they stumble upon this Nazi lab in the church, and they're basically creating secret soldiers. So, I mean, in terms of the trailer, they look like zombies. I mean, they are, in a sense, zombies because they're dead people being brought back to life, but they're not zombies in the sense of like, oh, if you shoot them in the head, they're dead, or they want to eat your brains. They're basically just like supercharged super soldiers who are dead and basically damn near unstoppable to kill. So it's not, in terms, like I said, a zombie movie. It's more of like a super soldier monster type kind of characters in this film. But basically, the character Chloe, she lives in the town, and she basically not necessarily captures the soldiers, but she kind of aids the soldiers by staying at her place in the town until they're ready to take out the church. And she does a really good job in the movie. I mean, she gives that kind of badass, I'm using the term badass a lot, but I mean, it's a war movie. I mean, it is badass. But she gives that kind of that tough heroine character in the movie. But she also gives that kind of what's the word? She's a badass, but she has the emotional weight to her character. So that way, like I said, just kind of like with all the characters in the film, they have this emotional weight to them that adds layers to the character. So they're not, even though they are typecast characters, they feel more than that. And her character in particular, to me, she was the best part of the movie. Wyatt Russell and Yvan Baker, they do great, but this Matilda, she really, like I said, in her basically her first real big role, kind of comes out of it as someone for me to really pay attention to and really see if she does a whole lot more. I hope she does a lot more films that comes to the U.S. and it's not just all kind of like France movies or Paris movies, or French movies is the word. But basically she did a great job, and I'm looking forward to a lot of the cast and the director on what they're going to do down the road. But like I said, this movie, it's a really good war movie. I mean, for 3/4 of the film, it's a war movie. There's no horror aspects. The real horror is the Nazis, and then the war in general, and the Nazis trying to find them, and that there's this kind of aura of, things are going to go bad. This kind of, the super soldier stuff is going to come into play, but it doesn't come into play really until over halfway through the film, and that's not a negative, that's a plus, because it really gives us this kind of big war film that basically we weren't expecting. And that's a huge plus, because a lot of people are going to go into this just expecting straight up horror, and it's not. It's a war film with horror-like elements, and they feel earned. Like in one particular scene, like I said, with the Boyce character played by Yvan, he breaks into the church, and he's around every corner. There's just something more horrifying that he stumbles upon, and he sells it beautifully. And it breaks him to a point, to the point where he sounds like he's crazy when he finally gets back to the rest of his group. And like I said, it's an earned horror, and it makes us feel it as well. So when it comes to the big climax of the movie, where they have to get into this church and they have to kind of take everything down, including these super soldiers. It's pretty horrifying in the sense of not necessarily like, oh my god, I'm scared, but in terms of like it's super intense. You're kind of on the edge of your seat, every corner you don't know what's going to happen. There's not really a lot of big jump scares. I know a lot of people don't like them, but in the moments that there are some, like there's like one or two in the movie. Once again, they are earned. They're not cheap. They're there to grab you, and when they do, they hook you in. So I mean, overall, and also one big shout out too is the main villain in the movie, who's like the head Nazi of the area. He's played by, and I'm gonna totally butcher this name. It's Philo Asbeck or Asbeck. He's from Game of Thrones. Anyone who watches Game of Thrones, you might recognize him. Except on Game of Thrones, he's got a beard and his hair is all scraggly. But he's clean shaven in this, and he does a great job as the head Nazi. He kind of gives this. It's not nearly as good, but he gives this kind of almost Christoph Waltz from Inglourious Basterds type performance, where he, at least in the beginning of the film, he does, where he's got the respect of all of his men, and he has this level of fear, and strikes fear in the people in the town, not because of his actions, but because of his words and how he speaks. It's like, when he's talking, that he has the ability to utterly destroy you, but he doesn't do it. He just kind of emotes it from him. And he does a great job. He's a great villain. Kind of looks a little like Michael Shannon, clean shaven. So there's times where I was like, no, they didn't get Michael Shannon for this movie, but you could have probably passed him off as it. But like I said, great cast throughout. They're all done very well. Like I said, the direction of this movie by Julius Erving is great. It looks awesome. The sound design is fantastic, especially in those real quiet moments. Like I said, overall, I have really nothing totally negative to say about this movie. It's not going to be for everybody. If you don't like gore, or you get real squeamish, because it's gory in a sense, but it's more kind of like body deformities, kind of like The Thing. If that's not something you're into, or if that's something you get real squeamish real easily, you're probably not going to like this movie. But for the people who like action, who like war movies, who like that aspect of horror, you're really going to like this movie. It's a great movie. It was a real surprise to me when I went into it. I mean, I had heard good things, but just because you hear good things doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. But I was pleasantly surprised by the end of it. I was like, I actually really enjoyed this, and because of all the aspects it has. So I highly recommend Overlord. I mean, I would say go see it in theaters, but with all the movies coming out, it's kind of hard to say go see this over what's coming down the pike, like Creed and Wreck-It Ralph and Fantastic Beasts. Even though this is way better than Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald. But it's just, there's a lot of movies coming out, so I get it might not be something that you need to go out and see, but it is definitely something you need to see if you're a fan of, like I said, war movies, action, and horror, at least at some point, whether it be streaming, digital, Blu-ray. Definitely go out of your way to try to see this, and if you can see it in theaters, fantastic. Like I said, because the sound design is great, and it really works in a theater with those big speakers, so definitely find time to see this movie. It's well deserved, and I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. Other than that, I think that's about covers everything. I think I pretty much hit everything that I wanted to hit on the review. Yeah, but basically pretty much. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I hope this helped you guys out, and make you want to see the movie. And if you have seen the movie, maybe you at least agree with what I put on here. But yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, there's going to be more reviews coming down the pike. Like I said, I'm going to go see Grinch today, so I'll probably have a video out tomorrow or Monday for the Grinch review. And then, like I said, we got Creed 2, Wreck-It Ralph, Wrecks the Internet, and Robin Hood. They're going to be coming out, so I'll be getting those reviews in the next week or so. So lots more content to come. Like I said, if you guys enjoyed the review, you want more out of it, go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe button. Like I said, leave your comments about movies you want to have reviewed, and I'll try my best to get them reviewed for you. And if all else fails, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. And in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.